Hello, this is Dr. Stephanie, the founder of Your Healing Place, moving you from panic to empowerment in all aspects of your wellness journey, just one concept at a time. And so I am so excited to be able to share with you an actual live experience of a Zyto Scan from Zoe Brown. She was gracious enough to let us record it. We did it through live Zoom, and you will be able to see the transformational information that came out of the Zyto Scan. Wellness is so much more than just taking a vitamin and doing some herbs. It is about a spirit, mind, body connectedness. And what better way to see that in real time is to just have your body scanned. And so that's what the Zyto Scan did. And we're going to show you that in just a moment. So stay tuned. I'll be right back. Have a fantastic day. Take care. Hi, Zoe.
Hello.
How you doing?
Excited. I don't know what to expect. I'm just like, okay, we've been talking about this for how many years now?
A while. So you're about to get the full shebang and understanding how powerful the Zyto Scan can be.
Yes.
So
Indeed.
with that being said, we already preliminarily set up. You're connected to the technology, and we're just going to get started and go right in. But before we get started, I want to know if there are any health concerns at the top of your list that you wanted to deal with, any organ function you were concerned about, any symptomology. And the reason why I'm asking you this up front is because when we scan, you'll see why. You'll be like, oh my God, how did it know? But I want you to be able to share, you know, what your concerns are, so we can see that we can kind of see them in real time.
Okay. So lately, I've been experiencing, I don't like to call it stress or anxiety. That's kind of like, put that off to the side, because it's like, okay, I deal with it and keep it moving, but I know my body symptoms. So whenever I'm experiencing, doing a lot, just really doing a lot, I tend to have swelling in my belly. So
Really?
yeah, and that's been all my life, like this lower belly, no matter how much working out I do, I still maintain it. And that's where I was told that I hold my stress. So I want to eliminate that. And then lately, I don't know what's going on my left side. Like, I feel like my vein is about to pop out my neck. So I'm like, okay, I hope this is not heart issues. Like, what's going on? Like, I'm age 48, and I want some more years on this earth. I'm having fun. So
Well, you're gonna have a lot more years to go. I mean,
okay.
I can say I remember when I was 48. Right?
You look like you're 38.
Well, how about 53 going on 54?
Oh, wow. Okay, so let's do this so I can look like you.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is kind of clarify something. Two things that you said that were really important. Stress is a factor, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. You think you can repress it, but you can't, and it's going to show up anyway. And the reason why you might be experiencing the bloating is because when you're stressed out, your body is going to respond physiologically. And that physiological factor is something that your body can't help but do. Whenever you're stressed out, your adrenal gland, which is just over top of the kidneys, is going to pump out salt for you to fight or flight. But it's also going to say, wait a minute, we need to stay in balance. We need to stay in homeostasis. Let me pull some water out of the cells to dilute this salt. And that's where the puffiness comes in. And you might find that the puffiness is going to be anywhere. Your rings might get tight. Your face might get puffy. Your ankles might swell. On top of that,
all of the above.
And on top of that, your adrenal gland is like a peach. The outside of the peach is where you would bite it. That governs salt and water balance. So that's going to keep playing around anytime there's a stress response. And then the inside of the adrenal gland is called the adrenal medulla. And that's where your hormones are produced. So if you're stressed out for a long period of time, you will not only have puffiness, but you'll start to have hormone problems as well. And you will also notice bloating in the stomach, because that's cortisol storing fat in the midsection, in the middle jowl. And I know stress is important to deal with.
And I know previously I was saying, maybe I'm going through premenopause because I haven't had my cycle, and you're saying no.
Not necessarily. It can be stress. So another thing that we might want to consider in the future is a hair tissue analysis, because that would show me from a mineral perspective, what's happening to creating the imbalance. I know that a lot of people are taking vitamin C during this COVID experience because they want to boost their immune system. And I wouldn't advocate that, because if you don't know your underlying biochemical factors, you can create a problem. So if you have too much vitamin C, not knowing that you have a zinc to copper imbalance, you can create something called hypercholesteremia, meaning your cholesterol starts to overproduce, and it goes in your arteries, and you can potentially put yourself at a heart attack or a stroke risk by following somebody that said, girl, take some vitamin C. No, call Dr. Reid. Maybe I can help you better.
Yes.
And then the other part of that extra vitamin C is it will lower your copper stores, and you need zinc to copper stores to deal with fertility, reproductive health, emotional health, heart health, so many other things. So you don't want to play around with herbs and vitamins and minerals if you don't know what you're doing, because you don't know what's happening internally and you can make a mistake. And so it's something to be said when you go to your allopathic doctor, your MD, and he says, are you taking any herbs or vitamins or whatever? And you go, no, I ain't gonna tell him. Well, you should, because they might have some interactions with things that you're not aware of, and you can have sky high cholesterol levels, and now he's thinking something crazy when all you need to do is just stop taking a vitamin C.
Okay.
Right? And so I wanted to kind of bring those two things into balance for you, because you can't shoo stress away. That's your body's way to signal that it's going through something and you need to check it.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. So I guess I had to admit, huh?
Yes. You have to admit. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to share my screen so we can get started with your Zyto Scan. And when we first get started, there's going to be kind of like a brief kind of video. It's going to explain to you what the Zyto Scan is and what it does. And then I'll kind of go back behind him and put in layman's terms.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. I'm so excited for you.
Okay.
Have you ever filled out a questionnaire at your practitioner's office? This is a common way to gather unique information about you. The information provided on the questionnaire was likely used to provide insight and direction to the practitioner. You might think of the Zyto Scan like a health questionnaire, only instead of answering these questions with pencil and paper, data from your body is analyzed. Here's how it works. Zyto software presents various virtual items, which might be thought of as questions on a questionnaire. These items are digital representations of things like foods, nutritional supplements, and clinical services. During this question-asking process, the Zyto hand cradle measures very subtle changes in the electrical properties of your skin. These changes, known as galvanic skin response, are sent to the software to be analyzed. The software looks for the responses that are closest to your established baseline. These are considered more coherent items, your biological coherence. Your responses from the scan are ranked for coherence on the balance report, and this data can then be used to help maintain your personal wellness. Just like a questionnaire, the Zyto Scan is aimed at providing information and does not constitute a diagnosis. Equipped with this information, you can make personalized wellness decisions on a regular basis. Because your responses to any questionnaire can change over time, you'll want to regularly rescan to assess your current biological coherence and ensure you have the most up-to-date information to help keep your wellness on track.
All right. So what did he say? What he said was, when you go to your primary care, your allopathic practitioner, they will say, so Zoe, how are you feeling? And you'll say, well, you know what? I'm bloated, or I get puffy. And what else he might say? You might say, well, I'm having a hard time sleeping, and I feel a little stressed. He'll say, oh, okay. Well, we'll give you some prednisone for the swelling. We'll write you a prescription to go see a referral to go see a psychotherapist, and whatever else you said, he'll give you a prescription for. Does that sound familiar?
Yes, that's what they do.
So basically what happened is you told him a bunch of symptoms. He used what you said to diagnose you and gave you medication based on what you said your symptoms were. So does that make sense?
No, it
doesn't make sense, because what if You decide, I'm not going to tell him a piece of information because I'm embarrassed to say. Then he's going to give you a different medication that might not work. I don't advocate medications anyway, unless you're in a car accident, something's fallen off and you need support. But so the technology says, well, we don't have to do that, because the technology kind of asks your body a series of questions in milliseconds based on the information that's in the database. Heart, liver, lungs, bladder, colon, uterus, breast, the whole 9 yards. I get to see it all, right? And then it says, now that we've assessed what's happening energetically with these organs, now let's go back and reassess, what can we give you naturally that's going to help your body repair itself? And so that's what it does. So the report is going to pull out a report of your wellness potential. It's even going to pull out your emotions, girl. It's going to
Yes, I'm seeing as I'm nervous, like waiting on his results.
And then what we do with the information, it becomes basically your wellness plan, your wellness journey. So this is really, I would say, the next level in healing. And the next step up with that, or in line with that, would be the hair tissue analysis, because most people think that naturopathy is all about just nutrition. Well, it's not. It's about your energetic signature. You have something called an energy body. Your energy body is what's 8 feet out beyond you. And you know you have an energy body because when somebody invades it, you feel it. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. My classic one is somebody behind me too close, and I can feel them before I can see them.
Right.
So now I'm saying to people, are you 6 feet away? And I'm like, yes, I said that. And I smile, and they go, what can I say, right? It's not an unreasonable request. You see arrows on the floor, right? What are you going to do? So that's important for us to be able to establish an understanding of our energetic body. And your energetic body is so important. It works for you before your physical body does. You've said this 1,000 times. I feel like I'm getting sick. You have no symptoms, but you feel it. And a day later, you have the scratchy throat, or you're sneezing or something. That's because energy goes before physical. So the scan might show me things that are in your energetic body that you don't even feel yet. And this is the beauty of prevention, because if we can catch it before it manifests, then we can catch it on an energetic level, so it never has to manifest in a physical plane, which meaning you don't have to deal with the symptoms of it.
Okay.
So, I might say to a client, oh, the remedy comes up and it shows that you have, well, I don't have any of those symptoms. And so I'll pull up a remedy sheet and it'll say, this particular remedy deals with all of these things. You go, oh, you know what, but I do have that. And I am feeling that, because it's a lot different than what you think off the cuff. So for instance, when we talk about dehydration shows up in a lot of different ways. It might show up in a migraine headache. It might show up in dry skin. It might show up in bladder infections. It would show up in dry mouth. If your lips are dry and you constantly need lip balm, that means you're already dehydrated. Okay. Right? And dehydration will also show up in your stools. You'll wind up having really pebbly, dry stools. And sometimes if they're dry enough, when they pass, a person says, oh my God, I have to go to the hospital. I saw blood in the toilet. Well, what happened was that stool was so dry, it passed through the anal sphincter and it cut it because it capsulated so close to the skin. So if you see red blood, really normally not an issue. It's just dry skin, a dry stool hit it, or you wipe too hard. Now, if you see a whole bunch of blood in the toilet and you have black stools, we're talking about something different. But I just wanted to give an example of the level of change you can see with dehydration. Okay. And then we'll talk about a headache. When is a headache not a headache? When it's a parasitic infection. So you can go to your primary care and you'll say, I've had these migraines, and they'll give you all these medications. And guess what? The medications don't work because it's not the migraine, it's the parasite. Parasites will make you grind your teeth. You also have anal itching like 2 or 3 in the morning, and you might have eye floaters. But the reason why you get a headache is because you're grinding your teeth, and it's affecting the platysma muscle, and it's working so much it fires the nerve ending right here in the temporal lobe, giving you a headache. So
well, I'm a
a
cleanser.
lot,
I'm
yeah,
a cleanser, and I
and a
have
cleanser, yeah,
CMJ. I
yeah,
have that.
TMJ. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that could be a parasitic infection, or that could be how you hold on to your stress, cleansing your teeth.
Okay.
We will be able to see in just a moment.
Okay.
So I'm kind of padding all of this information as you're still scanning. And what I want you to do is try to see if you can use one hand to press on another so we can speed it up, because we want to see that red light blink. That's how we can get a better connection. So you have all the yellow. It should be a red light that blinks, and that will make it go faster. But in the meantime, we're getting in some good information, right?
Okay.
We're learning some things as we go along. So it was scanning. If you got a chance to look, it scanned your body. It scanned remedies. You might have seen that it scanned your spine. It scanned your teeth. And it also scanned other remedies, or I'm not remedies, it scanned other services that you would need. So wellness is about being aware of all of the possibilities and using them at the proper time. I also know that you're a Reiki master, and Reiki is a very intricate, energetic healing tool. It's very powerful. But if you give somebody Reiki on a time that their body wouldn't necessarily need it, it might not bear the results that you're looking for. And they'll go, that don't work. Yes, it does. It just, you didn't need it at the time. So it didn't have the capacity of benefit that it could. So now your report is up. Let's look at this. It's called your wellness report. We're going to look at several different reports. You can take your hand, take your hand off.
Okay.
This process is done.
Okay.
Now, so now we're looking at your wellness report, and I'm going to explain it to you as we go through. It says out of 198 biomarkers, you have 112 biomarkers in range and 86 out of range. The numbers, don't freak out about it. It's not that serious.
Okay.
But what we want to bring to your attention is this range, 22.66, and I'll show you why. If we scroll down, the first thing we're going to see are the remedies that will show up that your body needs to deal with these 86 issues that are out of range. And if we scroll down, what do we see? We see that out of the 86 things, your biggest problem is antioxidant stress, because it's trying to give you phytorad, which is antioxidant. But you see, phytorad takes care of 60 of these 86 things out of whack.
Wow. So that's
and
my
then
main
we have
thing.
the colon clear. You need some colon support, and colon clear is actually to help rid the body of parasites. And it will take care of 15 of those 86 things. And then bringing up the rear, sinus tone. So this is telling me you've been having some sinus issues. How have you been feeling in the sinus area, orbital sinus or nasal sinus, or postnasal?
Well, it's a lot of grass cutting going on. So with all the rain and, when I go walking outside, I'm getting all that grass,
Yeah, but what's interesting? That grass pollen thing is a gut problem. It's not really gas in the pollen. It's a gut problem. That's where allergies come from. And so basically it looks like you only need 3 remedies. And so this will tell you now what the remedies do. It says PhytoRad is a unique herbal and nutritional blend designed to provide comprehensive support, especially in the oxidative stress, right? Here's that word stress again, right? The formula contains a blend of antioxidants, including turmeric. It deals with the inflammatory response. Now, we talked about inflammation, didn't we? Like, how did it know? That's why I wanted to talk about it beforehand, so you could see that it's going to give you the remedy to deal with the exact issue that you're concerned with. Right? Wow. We talked about inflammation. The other thing is colon clear, and colon clear is for constipation, prolonged use of occasional bloating, pressure, and constipation. And it's also good, really good for ridding the body of parasites.
Okay.
It has a lot of different blends in it. Has Cascara sagrada, Chinese rhubarb, and it gives you a caveat of when not to use it. Okay. Okay. And then sinus tone. Sinus tone is for obvious things, but we're also talking about, and see, this is where I say that remedies do the obvious and then they do something else. So sinus tone is also for sinus congestion, but also sinus pain, headaches, mucosal discharge, and dry mucous membranes. And guess what? Hay fever. And you said, what? The grass.
Exactly.
Right? So it gave you the 3 remedies that you need. The beauty about this technology is because it gives you so much information to work with, spirit, mind, and body, you don't need to reorder these after you use them once. It's over.
Wow. Okay. Not like a prescription where you got to keep
Nope.
getting it refilled and all that. Okay.
It's over. You know why? Because it also shows you your emotional self. And as you deal with the emotional self, the physiological manifestations from the emotional self will go away. So we're actually only dealing with the current damage.
Okay.
This is the current damage. Because we're going to be dealing with your emotional self, the new damage doesn't have to come. So when you have a gastrointestinal problem, because it's recommending colon clear, that is an inability to let go. Having a hard time to let go. It's kind of hard to let go the old to bring in the new. So we eat food, we assimilate it, we get rid of what we don't need. If we can't do that emotionally and spiritually, our bodies can't do it either. Okay? And then when we talk about oxidative damage, or talking about that is kind of like always giving and not replenishing.
Girl, you already know.
I already know. And that's oxidative stress. So that's important that we deal with that. So that's how we look at the wheres, the whys, that from a naturopathic perspective, why you need these remedies. But the technology is so good, it explains it to you in depth. And it tells you that your 4 bodies elimination for wellness is detoxification. So in all of my social media right now, that's what I'm talking about, detoxification. Gastrointestinal system, hormonal endocrine system, and immune system. These are the 4 areas of wellness. Okay? So if we go down further, the report is also going to tell me some really good information. And this is where we get into that 22.66. You see this number? Okay. That's the one, that's the number we're looking at. Because this is your sweet spot. 22.66 is your sweet spot. Everybody's sweet spot is different. But we know if your body needs support depending on how far away from you are from your sweet spot in either direction. Okay. So your hormone and endocrine system is not doing, that off because it's close to your sweet spot. But look at your gastrointestinal system, your detoxification system, and your immune system. They're way off from your range. Okay,
so they should be all closer.
They should be closer
to that red line.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then as we go down further, now it starts talking about the other lifestyle areas. Your business is all about lifestyle and here's diet. So it's interesting for us to think, I have a great diet and it should work, and it should. It should. But it shows. But it shows if it doesn't. And if your diet is working, if you have good sleep, good energy, good bowel function, and stable moods. That is the markers of health. And so your diet is not quite where your sweet spot wants to be. But we also see that your hydration is also way off in the other direction. So
what does that mean?
Anytime we're away from the middle in either direction, that's the area that needs the support.
Okay.
And you see the inflammation, so we can see why there's some inflammation, right? Here. And then we're looking at mental and emotional stress here. Sleep, you need to get more of it, and toxic loads. So this report is telling me, okay, now we see what's really happening in your system, but now it talks about your detoxification system. And what are your detoxification stressors? Your stressors are your cardiovascular system. There's some bacteria, viruses, there are chemicals, there's heavy metals, there's parasites. We talked about the parasites. These are all the things that's creating a load on your detoxification system as far as it relates to your liver.
Okay.
And remember when we looked at those first set of remedies, when I look at the wellness report, and we're going to go through the rest of it, it's going to always give me the highest remedies that's going to help support this issue. Okay. So we're only going to deal with the top one in each category. But let's say a month goes by and you're still having some issues. Then these other remedies can come up and do the rear. Because so for instance, let's say you recognize that you have a stress issue, dealing with stress. Your adrenal gland is going to still engage. Your body's still going to respond that same way. Your digestion is still going to be compromised because that is the mechanism of the stress loop. and you can take these remedies. But until you deal with the stressor, you still might need these longer than necessary, because the stressor is the real cause.
Right.
Right? So if the stressor is you're stressing out because you haven't cleaned out your garage and you really need to get it done because you know there's stuff in there that you got to get done, until you clean that garage, you're not going to get the optimal support that you need from these remedies, because the emotional connecting point is still at play.
Got it.
Okay?
And you know I'm all about getting tasks done.
Right, exactly. That's why I said clean out the garage. You can relate to that.
I know.
So gastrointestinal, again, look at this, hydration. So we really need to, and when you don't have enough hydration, you can't flush things out. And when you can't flush things out, then you can expect the bacteria load to be away from the sweet spot. You can expect the viral load to be away from it. And so the manifestations of bacteria, fungus, yeast, and molds can manifest in so many different ways, right? Most people think that a yeast infection for women is vaginal yeast infection. But in anybody, it can be tinea pedis, which is athlete's feet. But it will also show up in abdominal bloating.
Wow.
And in babies, it's thrush in the mouth and cradle cap.
Okay.
Right? So it's how you understand these things. And so you might say, I don't have, but you know what? My baby toe is cracked underneath. That's an indication of a fungal infection, which is candida. Right? So we learn so much more about the possibilities. So it's talking about the inflammation, your gallbladder, vitamins, the whole 9 yards. We go further down.
Now I have a question. My gallbladder was removed.
Right. Oh, that's so good. So good. Because you know what that means? Just because you remove something, the energetic signature is still there.
Okay.
You ever hear of a phantom limb? And somebody's having an amputation, they say their leg itch?
And they don't have a leg?
It's called the phantom limb syndrome. So even though you don't have the organ, the energy of the organ is still there. It's like the essence of it is still there.
Awesome. Okay. Wow.
All right. And we move down further. Now we're talking about your hormone balance. And the balance is the testosterone is off. Testosterone being off can cause hair growth in women, like on the chin.
Yes.
And that can be balanced out, but that's also a mechanism of the stress imbalance. When you're stressed out, your adrenal gland and your thyroid gland, which governs hormones, are going to be out of whack, and estrogen might be too low, progesterone too high, testosterone too high. Okay. But it can all balance out, so don't stress.
So as far as testosterone, like I don't have any hair on my chin, thank God I don't have it. But as far as it being that far over, is it too much testosterone?
Yes,
or not enough?
It's too much. You're out of balance. It's too much. It's just as your sweet spot.
Okay.
And then this is showing me some other remedies that are not in your regular panel that you could use. So if you were concerned about your hormone levels, you would add Endopath F to your regimen. Okay. These are your balancers for those categories. And then we move down to your immune system. The immune system is what everybody's talking about. Your biggest immune organ is your spleen. But look at the emotion that's creating that right underneath.
Guilty.
Guilt, shame. Right?
Right.
So I had to work with guilt myself yesterday. And I was in my panel, and I'm thinking, what am I guilty about? And when I journaled it out, because I tell patients to journal the word to see what the spirit brings out. And what I journaled was, I feel guilty for wanting to put myself first, because sometimes I get frustrated from being a servant all the time.
Oh my gosh.
That's me. So I make everybody's plate first, I cook first, and then I say to myself, you know what, I'm not even gonna cook today because I don't feel like it. I'm gonna just cook for myself. I feel bad if I don't cook for everybody else. It's like, but I got grown folks in the house.
Right.
So the guilt, the shame, the other, it doesn't have to be something tawdry and out of way left field. We are subjected to our subconscious cues based on our paradigms from childhood. And in your childhood, if you were made to be responsible at a young age and you had to do things beyond your developmental age, you've learned to be just on it. You don't know anything else, but then you feel guilty because, like, I don't want to be on it all the time. Can I back up? You don't know who you are without you being on all the time, and that's another issue too.
Right.
It's like, who am I if I'm not doing this? You know, so this report can be really deep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this report for you, so you can go back and read it. So the takeaway is understanding your sweet spot.
Yes.
Anything away from it in either direction means that that's the part that needs support. These remedies are the balancers that will bring your body back into balance in each category. When your report is first drawn up, it just tells you what are the best remedies to deal with everything. And in your case, you only need 3, because out of the 86 things that need support, oxidative damage is your biggest issue. So just taking Phyto-Rad antioxidant is going to be huge.
So what, can you break that down a little bit more?
So oxidative damage is, imagine a cigarette in an ashtray and it's leaving ash. And as somebody uses the ashtray and they never clean it out, then you have more ash, and the ash is now starting to eat or corrode the ashtray. When your cells break down and they do what they need to do, they leave a byproduct called a free radical, right? And a free radical is like ash in the body. Antioxidants go and scavenges out to bring it back out, or but it's only, your antioxidant support is only as good as, number one, you're getting antioxidants in, because the body can't produce it. Antioxidants would be vitamin C is an antioxidant, green tea is an antioxidant, just things that would scavenge toxic load in the body. But if you're not drinking enough water, then your toxic load is going to be more concentrated. And if you're not getting any good oxidative things in, antioxidants in, then it's not being scavenged away. And over time, it can cause a plethora of health concerns. That's why this one remedy can help the body regulate 60 of its metabolic functions, because it's dealing with detoxification, it's dealing with repair, it's dealing with a lot of different things that antioxidants do. So how do you get antioxidants in your system? Eat more green leafies, vitamin C stuff. And if we're going to increase vitamin C, I would recommend that it not be over-the-counter stuff. Try to get it out of your diet. Right. And there's a trick way that you can get it out of your diet. It's called kinesiology muscle testing. And that's a whole nother video that we probably should do, because you can have 2 oranges. One would have vitamin C, the other one won't. How would you know? You can test it to try. So when I'm in a supermarket, I'm doing kinesiology muscle testing, and people look at me like, "What's she doing?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it." And I'm back and forth. And my daughter used to say, "Mom, can you come to school and take me school shopping for groceries?" when she was in college. And I'm like, "Okay." We would be in the supermarket. She's like, "Can I get this?" I would say, "Muscle test it." She was like, because you know your body is not going to agree with blonde Oreos, right? And I wouldn't buy stuff that didn't resonate with her system. And she was like, I'm like, "No, did you muscle test it? What did your body say?" Now she knows how to do it, and she does it well. So that's another video we can do, is kinesiology muscle testing. So you understand your sweet spot, you understand your 4 wellness components, you understand why the remedies are the way they are and how they were chosen. Awesome. We're good? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to save this report for you.
Okay. And
then we're going to pull another report so you can see. Should I do D or Z?
ZB? Is that what you want to do? ZB?
No, your first initial. I know your last name is Brown. What's your first initial? Zoe or Deidre?
Z.
Okay. I know how to find it. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so this is saved. Now we're going to use from the same report. Oh, I can't do that. From the same report, we're going to, from the same scan, 8th. I'm going to change it. I see it.
I was like, we're back in May.
All right. Oh, it won't let me. I get it. It's the /. I know this. Okay, 20. All right, here we go. So now we're going to pull another report. We're going to pull the advanced report with teeth.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because there's something to be said about your mouth.
And I had a lot of dental work done, so
So we will be able to assess what's happening with your mouth, your spine. And so the report shows up the same in terms of these numbers. You see,
Okay.
198 biomarkers, 22 range.
Yes.
86 out of, so if we scroll down, it's going to still give us the remedies that you need. That doesn't change.
Okay.
But what's added to this, now we're looking at your organs in real time. So now we see, look at that adrenal gland. Now, adrenal gland, we talked about that stress. So it's away from your sweet spot. The gallbladder is kind of right there. The heart, away from, so you have some things that need support.
Yes.
Right? But look at all the things that we energetically kind of looked at. We looked at the liver, the lungs, the breast, the ovaries, the pancreas, the parathyroid, the pineal gland, which is in the brain, the pituitary gland, the small intestine, the spleen, the stomach, the thymus gland, thyroid, urinary bladder, and pulling up his uterus. So we see all of that. You won't know any of this just going to get a physical.
Not at all.
So what else do we see? We see what I had mentioned before. We're going to see your spine. Now, this is really interesting, and this part of the report is for a chiropractor.
Right.
But if we look at it, we can still understand it. And this is really important to understand. From C1 to C4, that is your neck area.
Right.
Right? By the time we get down to C5 and C6, we're really talking about your thyroid gland. By the time we're doing thoracic spine 1 and 2, we're going into the heart-lung region. So now we're in the middle of the chest. When you have a back problem, it might not necessarily be a back problem because the nerves in your spine are innervated through organs. So when you have a neck problem, it could very well be inflammation of the thyroid gland causing you to have a neck problem, and it's pressing on the nerve on your vertebrae. So it shows us again how we're actually dealing with health from the broadest perspective as possible, as opposed to assuming that you only need a chiropractor to crack your neck. Well, what about your thyroid gland? Right? That's why it's important to look at it from this perspective. And let's say you have a heart problem, or it's been said you have a heart problem. Potentially, it's really not the heart, but it's the nerve that's being pinched in that area that's creating a signal to the heart. But your heart itself could be fine. But if you go to the hospital and go, oh my God, you're having a heart problem. Actually, I got a cervical spine problem. So,
that I do.
Right? And you can see that very clearly. The other thing that the technology does is shows me your teeth. Teeth are very significant. And the teeth that are really most important, these regulate your kidneys, and your molars have everything to do with your heart space.
Wow.
Right? And so when a dentist will look at this, so when I have patients that need dental work, I give them this report and I send it to Dr. Richardson, who's a holistic dentist. And he looks at this report and go, oh, okay. And it coincides perfectly with what he's looking at. And sometimes it gives him insight on things that he didn't think to look at. He goes, oh, I didn't know that was going on. And he could, so it's a wonderful piece of technology. This is what I like the most. This is meridians if you were an acupuncturist.
Right.
And if we go down further, now it talks about the other services. Remember we talked about what other services could the body use? It said now that you could use colon hydrotherapy. It makes sense, doesn't it? Because it's trying to give you something to deal with your gastrointestinal system. So let's talk about that for a brief second so we can correlate it to stress. Remember we talked about the adrenal gland? It pumps out salt when you're stressed. When it pumps out salt, your adrenal medulla engages and you are ready to fight or flight. And it might not show up as fight or flight. You can be very aggressive, but you could also have good stamina. You could be always on it, ready to go. And then after the day is over, you are exhausted. You might not admit it, but you are. And then what happens is when that mechanism is happening, blood flow stops in the gut. So you have no digestion activity while you're in fight or flight. So the more you're in fight or flight, the more you're going to have gastrointestinal problems.
Yep. You're right.
Because blood flow stops there. That's the mechanism of spirit, mind, and body. One can't happen without the other. And
Mm-hmm.
so it says you could benefit from hydrotherapy, laser therapy, body code. Some of this stuff, applied kinesiology, was something I was going to explain to you before. We could do a video on it. And that's about it. So those are the 5 other additional services that you might want to investigate. Hey, what is that? Because there's so many wellness opportunities available that people have no idea.
Right.
So when I go to functions and people are all sitting around a table and they talk about what they do and say, I'm a lawyer, I have this wonderful case. I'm like, wow. You know, I'm a realtor, I just sold this $2 million house. I'm like, wow. And they go, so what do you do? And I go, I'm a doctor of naturopathic medicine. They go, I take herbs. And I go, that's not what I do though. So
Right.
you see that there's a very narrow understanding of the possibilities of what a naturopath could do. Right? Very narrow understanding. So this kind of opens it up and gives people a bird's eye understanding. So I'm going to save this report for you, and then we're going to get to the good stuff, because I know you want to, what are my emotions doing?
You know, as you're scrolling through, and I always, like I tell my husband, I was like, you know, when I'm stressed, because my stomach will just expand on its own. It's weird.
Yeah.
It just blows up. And I'm like, okay. And when I calm down, my stomach will go down.
Yep, absolutely.
What's going on now? I know.
Adrenal engagement. That's exactly what's happening. And it can also be something you ate. When you have, when your bowels are having a challenge, a lot of things you eat, whether gluten or not, can be intolerable. Even fats can be intolerable. And you'll know that you're not breaking down fats properly, because when you have a bowel movement, it'll float.
Stephanie, wow, because somebody once said to me, like, you know, you're having a good bowel movement if you got floaties.
Nope.
That means it's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
Isn't that something?
You're not digesting proteins. Yeah. Because even
what about if you don't eat a lot of proteins though?
Right. It doesn't matter. So here's the problem. That can be creating your dryness problem. Because if you don't eat a lot of protein, your body's going to register the carbohydrate. And the carbohydrate is going to lower your thyroid gland, and it's going to cause the calcium to deposit. You'll know if your thyroid gland is slowed down, if you have cold hands and feet.
Yes, I do.
You have so your carbohydrate intake in relationship to your protein is creating a problem. So again, there's so much that we can talk about, but let's look at your emotional report, because I think this is I know that this is the most significant wellness factor that needs to take place. I just gave my husband a bald head. Hope it works. Okay, so this is your emotional vector report. Can you see the emotions?
Yes.
Frustration, envy, guilt, ashamed, lonely, greed, helpless, jealous. And we're looking at the things that's away from your sweet spot, right? Concept. But here's the magic of this. Even if you look at these words and go, that don't resonate with me, unfortunately, it's your subconscious. And so in order for you to break past that, my suggestion is always for you to look up the word, the definition, and get a synonym. Because a synonym might give you a better acceptance, because a lot of times we won't accept something because our paradigm says we can't. For instance, I had a client yesterday, and hate was way across the page.
Wow.
And she said, I don't hate anybody. She was completely defending herself. And I said, you see, that's a paradigm. Hate is a strong word, which she said. I said, but it also means a strong dislike, so many other words. And I said, is it okay to have a strong dislike for injustice in the world? And she was like, oh, yeah, I guess it is. But since she had locked her paradigm in her belief that you shouldn't hate nobody, then she rejected the ability to heal for that word, because it wasn't a part of her socialization that she could tap into. So she rejected it, but she still felt it. It was way off the chart. Yeah. So the most important part about this report is to see where these emotions went. You ready? Here we go. Drum roll.
Okay.
So ashamed is in your ovaries.
Okay.
It's in your tooth number 26. It's in your tooth. These are T's or teeth. It's also in your sacrum. And that makes sense because your sacrum is in your lower lower quadrant of your body. That's where your ovaries are. And it's also in your mouth. So that's where shame is. Frustration is in your liver and your gallbladder. Liver and gallbladder do what? That's your digestion points. No wonder
my gallbladder was removed.
Exactly. So you must have been frustrated for a long time, right? It's also in thoracic spine number 10. So that's like kind of like almost closer to the middle, right below before we get to the lumbar spine. Because you have 12 thoracic.
That's where a lot of my damage is.
Right. Yeah. And then we also have guilt. Guilt is in your mouth and then your bladder. And then tension is in your tooth. You have tension. You said, did you grind your teeth, remember?
Clench, yep. I clench a lot.
Right? And so that's in tooth number 30. 30 is your molars, they're in the back.
Okay, yeah. And that's what causes CMJ.
Yeah. And so what do we do with this? What we do is we read the book From Panda to Empowerment. That's one of the things you do, because you'll learn a technique called reflect, reframe, renew. Reflect on their emotion, journal it out to find the story. Because it's that story that's keeping the emotion in check. And what we have to do is reframe the story, look at it differently so it can be released from the organ. Okay, so I'll give you an example. So there was a lady who came to me and she was adamant. I was like, I'm not getting dialysis. I don't want to do that, blah, 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 blah. And I immediately said to her, so what are you afraid of? She said, I'm not afraid of anything. Now, we know intrinsically that fear is in the bladder and the kidneys, because we say all the time, I was so scared I almost peed on myself.
Right.
Everybody says that because the energy of fear is in the kidneys. Everybody knows that the energy is hate is in the heart, fire meridian. Everybody knows that the energy of grief is in the lungs. When you hear bad news, you go, oh my God, that was so sad. And you don't exhale, right? We just keep that shallow breathing, and that eventually creates lungs to not be able to expel toxins, and then they get caught up, and before you know, you have bronchitis or pneumonia or whatever the case may be. And then we know that stress is in the liver, and if you're stressed out, you're not going to be able to go to the bathroom because your liver and your gallbladder has everything to do with your digestion, not just your colon. So when you learn how to reflect on the emotion, you might not always know what the emotion is. So a client might come to me and she says to me, well, Dr. Reid, I don't want to get dialysis. And I said, what are you afraid of? She's like, I'm not afraid of nothing. I live by myself. She went through the whole spiel. I said, okay, all right. And then she looked up and she said, oh my God, you have a dog. And I'm like, yeah, but you'll never see him. She's like, I'm scared of dogs. I'm thinking, I thought you said you weren't scared of dogs. So I said, well, can you tell me why you're afraid of dogs? So this is where paradigm comes in. She says, well, when I was a little kid, I was attacked by a dog and it bit up my face. And so, you know, the practitioner in me is I'm looking for scar tissue. I don't see none. I'm like, that was a good plastic surgery, because when she said her face was jacked. So I said, can you give me some more detail? She says, well, I was about 3 years old. I had some ice cream in my hand. I was at my aunt's house and she had a puppy. The puppy jumped on me, it knocked me down, and the ice cream smashed in my face, and it started licking the ice cream off my face and it scratched me. I'm saying that sounds a lot different than I was attacked by a dog. But here's the problem with that model. When you're a child, your socialization or your understanding of what happened is predicated on how it was presented to you. Now, if her parents or anybody was in the room would have said, oh, honey, it's just a puppy. It's not going to hurt you. Let's pet the little puppy. Let's wipe your tears. It's a nice puppy. You and the puppy could have been friends. You could have loved dogs forever. But in her case, it was like, get your dog. It's going to kill my baby. And so you see the energy locked in that paradigm. So when you understand that paradigm, so now in her adult life, she was afraid of things that she perceived to be bigger than her. A promotion that she thought she wasn't worthy for. Marriage, because she thought she wasn't ready for that level of commitment. Being in a small apartment, realizing that getting a mortgage is much cheaper, but it was big. Everything was bigger than her understanding of how she could handle it. And that was socialized from that dog experience.
Wow.
So when I take a client through the concept of understanding the emotion, in her case, she identified the fear. I knew it was fear because of the kidney problem. And also we did something, we looked at it from a child's perspective. And I said, well, I can understand how you would feel that you were attacked by a dog, but it was up to the adults in the room to clarify that moment for you so you could have a different understanding of it. And now that you've told me what really happened, how do you feel? She's like, it feels so silly. And I was like, well, it wasn't silly, but that was a paradigm shift. So when you have the emotion, you find the story, you reframe the story from a small-minded to a large-minded experience, then you have relief. And she was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. So when you are able to reflect and reframe, it releases the emotion out of the organ. So when the remedies that I give you, you start taking them, they actually work now because the offending emotion is gone.
Right.
And you learned that in the book.
Wow. And I have my copy.
Right? And that's how we deal with the spirit, mind, and body continuum of wellness thoroughly. Because without putting those components together, it's hard to fathom. And I was able to create this model because I understood that people needed a different perspective of what wellness could be. But we're so technologically stuck that if I was a little lady talking about I can energetically infuse stuff in your water and I'll give you these things, these little brown tinctures, you'd be like, but I can do that too. I can do that too, right? Because another thing that I can do with your Zyto Scan is if you put your hand on your Zyto Scan, you don't have to now, and I went into something called a biosurvey, I could scan your body for the remedies that you would need, and I would tell you to put your water in front of it, and an energetic signature, the vibration of those remedies will go into your water, and you would drink it, and you would feel like you had a pill.
Wow.
Why is that? Because when you take a pill, what you're really doing is only getting the material aspect into your body as a medium of transmission. Once it gets into your body, all of the electrical signals in your body does the work. The receptor cells kick in, whatever energetic stuff needs to happen is all there. So once it gets into your system, it becomes energetic anyway. That's what chemistry is.
Right.
Biochemical reactions. They're not, you can't touch a biochemical reaction.
Right.
But it happens in the system. So when you take a pill, it's really just a medium to get it into your system so your body can deal with it biochemically. Such amazing stuff is possible.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That's how we deal with you, spirit, mind, and body. And that's why this technology, it shows me where you need support. And the caveat is this technology, like you heard in the beginning, it doesn't diagnose, but what it does, it shows you some things. And if you're willing to look at and see what it's trying to show you, it makes so much sense, but not from a head space, but from, you know what, I resonate with that. That makes sense. I can get with that, right? Because we're trying to, we're in a world where you might not want to go to the hospital for something. I called the doctor today because I had severe gastrointestinal problems. And now that I think about it, I know exactly what happened. I'm severely gluten intolerant. Our wedding anniversary was last week, and I ate dinner rolls. And dinner rolls are gluten. And then I went to the hospital to visit someone, and I had a tuna salad with no bread, but it had mayonnaise in it. And mayonnaise and bread, not good for you. Mayonnaise, oxidative damage all over the place. And since my system is pretty much kind of clear, when something bad comes in, my body responds like, what were you thinking? And so I was like, oh my God, let me call a gastroenterologist, because I'm a firm believer that you can still seek support from other practitioners for information. Because once I get the information, I'm going to treat it the way I know how to do it. I just want to get out some things. He said to me, well, you're going to have to get an endoscopy and colonoscopy, and I'm going to give you this medication that's going to stop the peristalsis of your colon. I'm thinking, no, you're not. So I went back upstairs and I got some relief tone. The pain is gone. I took a GT gut formula that has marshmallow root in it, and I chewed it up, and I'm fine. But if I didn't know any better, if I was a lay person, I would have scheduled that endoscopy and colonoscopy. And the thing that really turned me around was he says, well, there's only you know, a 0.5% chance that we would perforate your colon and you wouldn't work up from anesthesia. And I said, that's too much for me. Because you
Oh
know what
my
happened to
goodness.
right? My
Right,
daughter
right,
had 1% chance. She was at
right.
1%. I was like, no, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't pay to only have one body of information. If you have more information, then you can make informed choices.
Mm-hmm.
And so a good wellness coach is going to give you the information that you need so you can make an informed choice. You can say yes or no to any modality, but you can
Mm-hmm.
do it with courage and confidence. And I said, his practitioner called me and she says, well, Dr. Owens, I was like, no, I won't be scheduling nothing. Thank you for your time. Have a fantastic day. And maybe that was all the confirmation that I needed, that was too
Right.
crazy for me. I just need to stay in my lane. Right? Sometimes we need that reinforcement. So
Yeah.
I'm not immune to that either. So that was a lot of information, but you will have a copy of this and you have the copy of your reports. But since we're still recording, what do you think about the Zyto Scan?
I mean, I feel it's awesome. Based on all the information that it brings up, I didn't realize how much it brings up. I know we talked about the importance of getting it, but until you get it and see it like this, then it's like, wow, you know, this is like many doctors all in one. I mean, your psychologist, your chiropractor, your dentist, your you know, it's just everything all in one. So that's what's awesome about it. And just knowing how the body actually responds. You know, if you have an injury, how it's responding to you and how it's affecting you, your organs and everything, you know. So it's just amazing. And Jen, my part is the healing process. It's like, you know me, I'm like, okay, let's go. What we gotta do? Like, because, you know, I don't, you know, this is something that I always worked on when it comes to my stomach. And, you know, it's like, okay, I want to be fab and 50, you know, and just let go of some things. So, yeah, definitely getting in control of it. And it's confirmation. It has been confirmation. I mean, my husband told me I need to take more self-care time, you know, because like you said, focusing on everybody, the go-giver. And if I'm not doing for everybody, I feel guilty and I get frustrated. And so I'm looking at that and I'm like, oh, girl, you got to get it together. Like, so yeah, I definitely do need to do more self-care time. And, you know, yes, so I got it. And it's confirmation for a lot of things.
Good. And so once we got it started, how easy is this process?
Very easy. It was easy to set up. The instructions that were given, everything as far as downloading to the computer. And I mean, I received the kit and just literally plug it in. That's it, as we saw. I had to wet my hands, you know, that's it. So it was very simple, nothing, no brainer. It's nothing to think about.
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel as though any care was lost because we were virtual and not actually in the office?
Oh no, not at all. Not at all. Especially this day and age. I mean, this is our life, you know. So it's like even if you were overseas, it still feel like I'm communicating with you, like right here. So
Yeah,
you could be anywhere around the world, and this is still effective.
right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel?
I feel relieved a little bit because it's like I might have been running away from this Zyto for a minute because I knew what was going on with me and I knew you're going to see everything. It's like, oh boy. So I might, you know, but it's good to have it and not run away. Just do it so that way you know, because it's better to know than not to know. And like you said, how it can, if I prolong this stuff, it could have led to a heart attack, you know, and it's like, that's the last thing I want. So it's a relief of knowing exactly what's going on in my body. And now it's like, okay, the proper ways to go about it versus, because you know I'm not a medication person either. So the proper ways of going about it based on, you know, your recommendations, what need to be done.
Yeah. The beauty of this technology that I love the most, that it takes the ownership of the recommendations onto the client, because this is what your body is asking for. This is what your body is saying. So I'm just kind of being a facilitator of the technology. In the past, I would do kinesiology muscle testing and I would recommend things, and I had a whole room full of inventory of all the things I could possibly think of the patient would need. And I find that I had to throw away a lot of stuff quite often because I wasn't assessing the entire situation. So for instance, in terms of oxidative damage, I might not have went to that being your issue. I would have went to an adrenal gland problem, and I would have said you need adrenal tran. Adrenal tran is another remedy. Adrenal tran may have worked well, but it wouldn't have been all encompassing of those 60 out of those 86 things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why this technology is so powerful, because it deals with all the other variables as well, besides what's in a practitioner's head. There's no way that anybody can know anything. And that's why I think it's a disservice when you go to an allopathic doctor and they say, well, let's try this and we'll see what happens. If it doesn't work, we'll try something else. You know how many times you can try something and hurt yourself in the process?
Exactly.
May cause bleeding ulcers, your butt's gonna fall out, but call your doctor today. And you're like, no.
Right.
Right? Technology says once because it asked you. It got your energetic signature. And the one last thing I wanted to bring out is, if anybody watching this video and they're kind of like unbelieving of how this works, you saw the video in the beginning, but think about an EKG that you get to test your heart. You get an electrodes, they're always put on the same exact space on your chest and back every single time. You know why? Because those are the meridians, which is a Chinese term for the energy center, that will excite the heart. So they will give you only the electrical current associated with what would make the heart fire, or or get to how the heart is gonna, that energetic signature of the heart. And then you see it on a QRS wave, right? You don't know how that works either. Right. And what technology does is, instead of giving you an electrode, it just gives you a whole electrode and it goes on all of your hand. And then it sends a current through your body in milliseconds for all of those things that we saw. So it's specifically looking for something, and that's how the report comes out. Whereas in the EKG, they're only looking for the heart anyway. But your body is an energetic roadmap. There are 365 some odd meridians in the body. And as an acupuncture student, I had to learn each meridian and the path that it took to get to different things. So there's a gallbladder meridian, there's a heart meridian, and then knowing gallbladder number 7, gallbladder number 2 will excite different organs in different ways. If I wanted to excite your gastrointestinal system, there is a meridian on your shin bone that will excite your colon. So the technology says, we'll just do it. We'll just send all the frequencies to the body and bam, here's your report. And you're like, wow.
Yes.
And reading the report is not hard because it's a narrative. So once we're done, you can actually go ahead and read your report and still be like, oh, okay, I get that. And then you'll have this recording as well.
Yes, yes. Well, I appreciate, oh my goodness, like this is exciting. I mean, it's exciting because I know this is part of my self-care. Like I had to get this done.
Yeah.
You know, I had to. So, you know, that's kudos for me. I can't feel guilty that, you know, I need to do some other stuff, but, you know, it's like, take a breather, like you needed this and I have to accept that this is for me. So
and the other
I will
part
be
is,
working.
Yep. The other part, you must journal those words that showed up because they're attached to an organ. And once they're released, the organs will be able to heal as you're giving them the remedy to heal the existing damage. That is one of the most critical components. And, you know, take some time to read, you'll get it. The book is also an audio book on YouTube. So if you can't read it, you can listen.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Any last questions? Any parting questions?
No, I'm interested in just, you know, fine tooth my comb, and then also the price. You'll let me know, you know.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, the remedies themselves, the blue remedies, they're only $30.
Wow. Okay.
And they'll last for about a month.
And what's interesting, you said one time and that's it, not a refill, not, okay.
Because you'll start feeling better. You'll start feeling better, and you'll be able to look and see if you're still having problems. You know what other balancers would be the issue, would support it. But the real problem is the emotion attached to the issue.
Okay.
That's the real issue. So with the lady back to the story, the lady with the kidney problem, she wound up not agreeing to do dialysis. She never got it. and she was able to do the things she needed to do to support her kidney health. She got rid of the fear of things that are above her that she perceived to be bigger than her, and she's fine. Last I talked, she has a standard size poodle, a chihuahua, and another dog. I can't remember the third dog, but she loves dogs. And so it's about a paradigm shift.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is confirmation. Yeah. So I guess this is all I have to go through before I turn 50.
Girl, you turning 50, I'll be 54.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, welcome to the fabulous 50 crew.
Yes.
All
Yes,
right.
indeed.
Well, I love you much, and I pray that this was a very enlightening, transformational experience for you and for anybody who's watching. And the last caveat is natural health coaches are very important to be in your life. Everybody needs a coach. I wouldn't recommend anybody doing this wellness thing by themselves because you can hurt yourself.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes. Take
All
too much vitamin C, you hurt yourself.
Yeah, hypercholesteremia, that's the word for the day.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a fantastic evening. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.